what's up guys, it's only Journey here, and I hope you are all having a wonderful whatever time it is for you guys right now. I know I certainly am. It's 6 o'clock right now, it's pitch black outside, it's dark and sad. Today we are doing something a little bit different. We are still reacting to Girl World, but this time we are reacting to Beck's newest video. Make sure to go subscribe to Beck. I will be linking their channel down below in the description. It's called Kinda Good, Kinda Beck. I've got my orange drink today in a different cup because I saw the amount of stuff reaction channels were saying about this video in their thumbnails and titles, so I decided probably gonna need one of these babies. I also got some water. Do you want some? Hydrate. So this video is called Part 2 Mr. Snowflake Q&A, Beck Kinda Reacts. If you like this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And just a disclaimer that everything I say in this video is for entertainment purposes only. This is only a reaction, and I know no one involved in this situation whatsoever, and I just think Beck is really cool, and I really like their art. So Beck, what do you have for us today?
Hey guys, I'm back with another video. This will be part 2 of my Q&A with Mr. Snowflake. I want to thank Mr. Snowflake so much for putting this video together and to everyone who asked me questions.
Mr. Snowflake is the GOAT, and I also, I just love him. He's great.
I appreciate it so much. I did my best to give as much detail as I could in each answer, and I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get into it.
Oh, I love that. I love that little title screen with the bubbles. I will be doing my best not to talk as much as I do during my Amber reactions, but probably gonna not do that because you guys know how much I like talking.
Hi everybody, and welcome to part 2 of the audience's questions for Beck. Morning after the night before, morning after Amber's taking accountability video. Be interesting to see Beck's take on that, because that was new levels of patheticness. I just can't believe
it really was, and holy shit, just that video in and of itself, Amber's gall, the fucking gall on that woman, my lord.
How terrible it was. Anyway, thanks for all your questions again.
Literally probably the worst one yet, and I haven't even seen any of her other apology videos.
This is part 2. There's enough for a part 3, because there's just so many. So I haven't asked them all here. I've had to really shorten it because there's so many good questions. So there is a part 3, but anyway, part 2 for now. Thanks for your questions. Beck, thanks for agreeing to do this.
I am so thankful that Beck has been doing this, and also with Destiny coming out and starting to do stuff now, amazing. Beck and Destiny are going to be doing a live stream together. Y'all don't know how stoked I am. And on top of that, Beck and Destiny are both in happy relationships, which just really makes me happy for them. And yes, you guys, go live your lives and be happy. That's what you deserve, good lord. Just seeing them and their videos, and what they went through with Amberlynn Reed, they went through a lot of the same shit that I had to go through when I was living with that jackass in Vancouver that I've told you guys about. Again, he was 5'8" and 110 pounds, but narcissists come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and they almost never look like a narcissist. I don't think narcissist even has a look. It's just the inside rottenness that counts, I guess.
Can't wait to see your response to that.
Ooh, okay. I will have to watch Snowflake's reaction to Beck's video.
Taking accountability. Right, here we go. Did Amber ever show what you think was genuine fear or concern when it came to her health and lack of mobility? Or does she just not care if she dies before 50?
That's a really good question.
And did anything genuinely change after the cancer in terms of attitude or trying to get better? Even
I would think it would, especially with cancer.
If just temporarily. Good question.
She would sometimes
Shy
cry
guy.
and get upset about her weight. When I'd speak to her about it, what hurt her the most was always that she felt she would never be her goal weight and that she would never look the way she wanted to look. Weight loss is hard. I know it is. But it's been so many years since she started her channel that she could have reached that goal in a healthy way, including any slip-ups along the way by now, if she had really wanted to. I think what upset her most was not looking how she wanted to. Health was not the priority at all. Her career on YouTube was much more important than her health, and she said as much.
That's fair. Like, not fair, but like for Amber, I'm not surprised.
Times. If she were to lose weight or not be a train wreck, she wouldn't have as many views.
At least it seemed like that's what she thought would happen. Fair, but also with the train wreck she is now, less and less people are watching, and I just wonder if she really feels like she's eating her words there.
Viewers, and that was the
Which is fine, guys. Words have no calories.
Most important thing to her, more than any concern for herself, those around her, or anything else.
Of course.
Nothing changed after her diagnosis.
Did you know?
Nothing? Just wow. And like, that's really disappointing as somebody who has lost so many family members to cancer. How could you not care about your health? Like, I couldn't imagine not caring about my health. I want to be around as long as possible. There are things in this world that I want to be around to be able to do. And like, I know I compare myself a lot. I don't mean to. It's my way of like connecting with the situation and being like, hey, I know how that feels. I don't mean it as like trying to one up or do any of that. I know it can come off as that. It's just my way of saying like, hey, I kind of understand in my own way. I couldn't imagine. Like, getting cancer and not caring about your health. Amber, I hope you don't get cancer again. I really do. But with the amount of stuff that you eat and drink that are known cancer causers, and somebody said that like, oh, but like, don't you need a lot of aspartame for it to cause cancer? Yeah, keep in mind Amberlynn is drinking 5 cans of that stuff a day. And that adds up, and she's not drinking any water with that. I wouldn't be surprised if she has a stroke before she gets cancer from the aspartame because of how dehydrated she'd be and all that fun stuff. But like, gosh, because that's a possibility. If you drink too much soda and you're not drinking enough water, you can stroke. And again, like, I don't understand how she doesn't care about her health. I can kind of understand it because to her, it's the easiest thing to do is to not do anything at all. That is always the easiest thing to do. The hardest thing is change, and a lot of people don't want to do it, and that's why so many people pass at these weights. But like, oh, not caring about holy shit. Like, that just makes me sad, and I don't think, like, Christ, I don't like myself all the time, but, like, I don't want to perish young.
Notice that Amberlynn tends to chameleon herself to be just like the people around her,
yep.
Especially her partners, whether it being towards you or maybe when she was around Destiny/Dana, Jade, or her mom. One of the most fascinating things about Amber is her recording herself morphing into different Lynns. Did you notice that? I noticed it, and I don't notice anything.
I did notice that, and so did everyone around her. That was something that I'd brought up to her multiple times, and so did her friends. When we confronted her, she would say that she didn't realize that she was even doing it, and that it wasn't on purpose. I always thought it was her.
Okay, but whether or not it's on purpose, Amber, it's still something to work on. I had a friend like that. She told me herself that she shouldn't look at any of my writing because she might plagiarize it. Like, yeah. And that was the ex-girlfriend of the man I used to live with. So, like, while she was dating him. But, like, yeah, like, goddamn.
her way of trying to fit in with the people around her. I don't think she has ever truly been confident in herself or in her own interests enough to just be herself around people. Or maybe she knew that who she really wasn't as likable as the people she wanted to befriend.
Ooh.
So it was easier to act like them than to be judged or screwed.
Beck coming out with the claws now. I love Beck. Beck deserves the world, y'all, and I am so glad that them and their partner are happy and just safe and away from Amberlynn.
Scrutinized for her own personality and behavior. I think it's important to find people who like you for who you are, but I think she didn't feel like that was possible, so she had to be someone else with everyone.
I mean, she isn't that likable, so maybe if she focused on bettering herself, focused on, you know, progressing her skills in her different hobbies and her social skills and, like, actually learning how to talk to people, maybe, but, like,
she had just been herself, she could have formed real friendships a long time ago.
Yeah.
And been actually working on herself and improving all this time.
She always tries to change her personality, but she always comes across as a douche. Doesn't matter which personality she picks.
I mean, yeah, that's true. It is. She always comes off as just such a bitch and someone who is so underhanded, two-faced. Just a real see you next Tuesday.
It's douche. So she needs to get better at that. Did Amber ever admit to lying about a disorder? There's so many examples of her lying about being diagnosed with stuff.
She never admitted to lying about a disorder, but I think that's because she genuinely believes that she has every single one that she says she has.
That's the thing with, like, narcissists and stuff like that. You have to keep in mind that when they are like, no, I'm not the bad person, I'm the victim, you're the bad person, they genuinely, for the most part, can believe that. Especially because a lot of narcissists are not as smart as they think they are. So a lot of them will say, oh, well, like, you're attacking me and I'm the victim here, but they don't even see what the inciting incident was and how they started it. They can't comprehend that. I feel bad for them, but in the same vein, it's not my problem.
She would self-diagnose constantly based on how she felt and a few Google searches. She was constantly worried.
At least check your family history to see if you possibly could have that in your family. And do more than a Google search. Look at actual medical journals. My golly gosh. Read the DSM-5. That's what I did when I was like, I'm probably autistic given the fact that I have people in my family who are diagnosed and I act like them. I don't know. When it comes to stuff like autism and stuff that is like really expensive to diagnose, I don't give a shit when it comes to self-diagnosing so long as you are using all of the available resources possible. And that means research, and that means understanding when you're bullshitting yourself. And most people don't. So most people with their self-diagnosis, yeah, I get why people don't trust self-diagnoses. Because a lot of people don't go into the nitty-gritty of it. They don't actually look at the medical journals or the DSM-5 or any of the diagnostic criteria. They just look at a small little list of, 5 out of the probably 300 combined symptoms of this stuff, and they're just like, oh, I have it. I did that when I was a teenager. I am guilty of that myself, but like, again, I've learned how to do medical research since then, and I've also learned how to tell when I'm bullshitting myself. And just to be honest with myself, Amberlynn is not honest with herself. She can't be honest with other people, so why are we thinking she'd ever be honest with herself? She genuinely believes the things she tells herself, most likely. I believe that.
Worried about every symptom she had, so she would always come up with a diagnosis on her own for each one. It's a bad habit and not a good way to find out what's really going on with you.
Exactly.
She would go to,
like, again, if it's stuff like autism and stuff like that where you can like do a lot of research on it and like you may not have the availability and the resources to get a diagnosis, that's not bad. But again, don't make it everyone else's problem. And focus on educating yourself about it. Actually educating yourself and looking at the right sources.
ER so often, but rarely or never go to a primary care physician, OBGYN, psychologist, or therapist who could have been much more helpful. And as we know, when she would go see those doctors, it would just be a few times before she would never go again.
Yep.
Amber has accused you of not allowing her to explore her bisexuality. Did she also prevent you from expressing your desire to be... See my little Jupiter's Delight smile? It's because it's coming up in a video. Wow. She seems very upset by the implication that she would date anyone that isn't expressly she, her.
While with Amber, she would be very defensive anytime I'd try to ask her if she may be bisexual. She would say no and accuse me of trying to label her or change who she was. I'd ask about it because she would talk a lot about being with guys, the incident at the movie theater, and about other things she did. It was okay to talk about, but it felt odd to me just how often it was brought up. I think back on it now, and I do think that she might have said those things so often to get some kind of reaction out of me. Maybe to see if I'd get jealous about it. I do understand being confused about your identity and wanting to explore that, but I was never really given that opportunity to support her or to allow her to explore that part of her. We didn't.
Your partner can't support you if you don't tell them what's going on. People can't mind read. And also, it would suck if we could anyway.
Talk more about it because she was so adamant that she only liked women and would shut me down anytime I asked about possibly being bi. I think it did affect me in a way, especially after the breakup, and once she opened up more about...
especially with her being so hostile about it, like, that can affect anybody.
...it while with Jade. Jade was bisexual and poly, and Amber started to explore that more with Jade. At some point, and I've admitted this before, I think I let myself feel a little bit like if I were to be with a bi woman, she would eventually leave me for a man. That was an awful way of thinking and really pushed an awful stereotype as well as erasing the experience of bi individuals.
Beck actually taking accountability here and, like, fixing, not necessarily fixing, but, like, adjusting their thinking. 10 out of 10. Like, genuinely, great work, because so many people don't do that. So many people cannot look in the mirror, Amber being one of them. I feel no ill will towards Beck as a bi woman. I think Beck is awesome, and I am so glad that they're actually talking about this stuff, because it is so important to talk about when we grow and change. Because so many people expect everybody should, you know everything and be perfect when it comes to, social justice and the acceptable things. Realistically, that's not how life works. And as a queer person who meets homophobic people often, it sucks. But a lot of these people are just confused and they don't understand what the queer community is, and they've been taught a lot of misinformation about it. So of course, if they're thinking the misinformation is true, sometimes they have valid reasons to, like, be upset, but, like, not actual valid reasons. In their mind, it's a valid reason because they think, it's bad, or they think somebody's doing something to hurt other people, and in reality, they're just misinformed because who they heard it from was a homophobic piece of shit. Educating people and evolving our thinking is so, so important, and being open-minded to people who are different than you. Like, very important. And I'm very proud of you, Beck. We all have our own biases that we need to grow and learn from. Everyone does. No one is safe from biases.
I hate that I let myself have those thoughts, and I'm so sorry to anyone who may have...
I think you need to be a little more forgiving of yourself. And thank you for the apology. But yeah, be more forgiving to yourself. You're a good person, Beck.
I've noticed that I felt that way and were hurt by it. It was an awful way to view things. I've worked really hard to no longer have that type of bias anymore. I understand now that my experiences have nothing to do with bisexual women as a whole, and my experiences should never affect my expectations of others in the future. As for my experience as a non-binary person with Amber, I did bring it up a few times in our relationship. The only response I got was always, I don't know, you seem like a woman to me. It took me saying something.
Amber. Yes, sometimes when people have two X chromosomes, they look curvier than muscle men. but like, God, what the fuck? Ah, that is so fucked up to say to somebody. So fucked up to say to somebody.
Something publicly in a video recently to get her to respect my pronouns
Yeah.
and name. So I don't think that if I'd come out at that time that she would have respected that decision.
I don't think she would have either, and that makes me really sad.
What was the worst argument you and Amber got into? I'm sure it's all just molded into one horrible hue, but does anything stand out?
You're right. There was so much fighting
Anya.
that it has all melted together in my memory, and they were all really difficult. It's hard to pick out just one.
That's felt.
I think the arguments that stand out the most for me are the ones where I got so overwhelmed that I had to leave the house and get away. One time, Amber, Eric, Ricky, and I were watching Adventure Time, and Eric changed the channel without asking. Amber, even though she did not like Adventure Time, and even though it was Eric's TV, had a huge blow up. I'd had enough, and I left without grabbing my wallet, my bra, or shoes. I drove an hour to my sister's and showed up at her doorstep barefoot and crying. I just wanted to escape.
What was the date of the We Have Broke Up
I just want to give you a hug, Beck.
live stream like? Great question. What was the pre-live stream, and more importantly, what was the post-live stream like? Good question, you know, I don't think about these things. The live stream itself was so uncomfortable, with ALR just staring off into the distance and making Beck do all the talking and responding to the chat. What was the rest of the day like? Yeah.
The day of the We Broke Up live stream was really stressful. She spent the day asking me if I was sure about my decision, guilting me about how she wasn't sure what
Yes, they were sure, Amber. They want nothing to do with you. You suck.
she would do without me, trying her hardest to make me feel awful. I wouldn't be there to take care of her anymore, and that's what she was most affected by. During that live stream and the following ones, it was obvious to me that she was trying to insult me and put me down to the audience. She really thought she was being clever. I knew I had to be there until I could get my things to move out, and with the promise of being paid monthly to help me get back on my feet, I tried to keep things amicable. I did try to clap back a few times though. For over a week, it was an emotional roller coaster, going from being completely fine to begging for me to come back, then emotionally manipulating me in an effort to get me to rethink my decision, and then being angry at me. Once Jade came into the picture, all manipulation toward getting me back ended, and there were no longer any moments of being nice to me. Everything became about rubbing this new relationship in my face and making sure I knew how quickly she had moved on, and making the split up as hard for me as it could possibly be. She treated Jade much better than she'd ever treated me, and she made sure that I saw
At least in the beginning, of course, yep.
I like this one. Thank you so much, Beck, for speaking out against narcissistic abusers. It helped me recognise a lot of similarities in the way one of my family members treats the rest of us. Families, man. Ugh.
That commenter needs a hug.
Don't get me started. And it enabled me to start doing my own research on how to handle the situation. I have a question based on my own experience with that family member. Did Amber ever ridicule you or generally make you feel bad for the things you enjoy, like drawing, video games, or watching certain shows? If so, do you think she did that to make herself feel better, or as a way of exerting control over you?
I'm so happy that I can...
It could definitely be a bit of both. I love the doodles. Kinda good, kinda Beck. Beck, I think you should make coloring pages. I love it.
help empower others to speak up on similar experiences. I also really like to hear that it's helpful in recognizing this kind of behavior in others' lives. I appreciate everyone who tells their stories and who just supports or watches in general. Thank you, Zalaris4144. So, she did make mean remarks about the way I dressed and the way I decorated.
Oh.
Otherwise, she didn't actively put down my interest, often outside of random comments here and there. I think that's because she just showed no interest in anything I liked, was doing, or enjoyed. We were always doing separate things in the same room together.
Amber's probably watching this. Douche. Was Amber ever truly concerned about her health, like hygiene, mobility, etc., or was it all just an act? Wishing the best for you, Beck.
Amber did say that she was concerned for her mobility and that she wanted to be more mobile, but never did anything about it while with me. I think that was because her online presence was more important than improving her quality of life.
Which is like, Amber, you could have done so many fun things if you had gone out and actually, like, done shit. And it would have been so much more interesting as well for everyone involved.
Like with her health. She wasn't concerned about how that lack of mobility affected me either, and how much work and effort I had to put into help.
She never is concerned about how it affects the other people in her life. She just cares about what she thinks.
Her due to those things deteriorating. As for her hygiene, she really never brought up concern about it. She would douse herself in perfume sometimes to help any issues, but that's all. I won't go into detail about smells or anything too personal, but her hygiene did affect everyone around her, myself, and others' personal belongings, and she did not show concern for any of those things.
What do you think?
Oh my. So, like, because we know she was free bleeding. That just makes me think, oh, what else was she bleeding on? Other than that mattress. Ugh. I want to give Beck a hug, y'all. goddamn.
I think it will take for Amber to change.
That's never happening.
Question. Was Amber aware of feeder content, and do you know if she purposely made content for the feeder community? We love you, Beck. Now it's pretty clear she's making feeder content, but back then, did it ever come up?
Personally, I think being deplatformed would be the only way. I'm not saying I want that to happen. No matter how terrible she's treated me and the number of things she's taken from me, I would never wish the loss of a job, stability, or housing on anyone. I know how devastating that is for anyone.
Okay, Beck's a better person than me because I don't wish, like, any of that, like, super bad shit on her. But, like, she should not be on YouTube. The shit she has done, in my opinion, like, it's better for everyone, Amber especially, if she's not on YouTube.
YouTube is how she makes a living. It's how she supports herself, and she uses losing her channel and views as an excuse not to change. The only way she would ever change is if it were her only option, so I don't see that ever happening. To answer the second question, Amber never admitted to me that she catered to...
Like, there's been, like, so many times where it looks like Amber's only option is to change, and she still doesn't do it. Because she fights it so much. And I don't understand how you could fight change for that long. Because change, if you do not change... Because people are meant to be constantly changing and evolving as people. And if you neglect that, you will get so miserable.
Feeders when deciding on her content or thumbnails. She did tell me that she would do mukbangs because they got views and would use thumbnails showing herself eating for the same reason. Knowing how often she read through her comments and looked...
So I feel like she should have known that this was feeder content. She probably did.
At anything online related to her, I can't imagine that she wasn't aware of what she was doing.
Yeah.
It definitely felt like feeder content, but whether she made anything outside of YouTube for that purpose or talked to anyone about feederism specifically, she never mentioned.
Does Beck know anything about Amber's falling out with Crystal? Actually, that is a good question. Yeah, tried being mates like she does with all her exes, and then it stops.
From what I witnessed, Amber very frequently reached out to Crystal. When Crystal got into a relationship with Nina, Amber was not a fan of having to share Crystal's time and attention with someone else, even though she was the one to introduce them to each other. Amber talked bad about Nina a lot to Crystal in an attempt to split them up. When I told her to leave them alone, Amber made it seem like she was just parroting things I'd told her about my own experience with Nina and doing it to defend Crystal and to defend me and what happened in my relationship with Nina. I didn't want those things to come between them. What happened with Nina and I was unrelated, and I won't talk more about that experience because it doesn't compare to how Amber treated me at all. Eventually, Crystal got fed up and cut Amber off, understandably.
Hi Beck, when you both lived together, did she ever sit outside? How come she never goes outside, even to just sit out there? Did you get bored with being inside with her a lot of the time? I remember watching a clip from that era in one video, well, only one video, where Anne was like, oh, it's nice to just sit outside. I think that was her at her heaviest. So yeah, did she ever go outside? Did you get sick of being inside all the time?
She would sometimes sit outside on the front steps, but not often at all. She usually just stayed in the bedroom and on the bed.
I feel like it would be easier for her to do that because, like, getting up from that, like, especially imagining almost 600 pounds, like, that is hard on your knees, getting up.
Did get really tired of those four walls, and it really contributed to my depression. I think the reason she didn't go out more often was likely due to mobility, but also just her being content with her laptop, phone, and everything else being taken care of for her.
Yeah.
Did you believe?
Yeah, it's really easy to get comfortable when everyone else is doing most of the work for you.
Amber's huge list of mental disorders she said she was diagnosed with. Before she met you, she said she was diagnosed with ASMR. Before she started YouTube, she did a post saying, I've been diagnosed with ASMR. So she lies about that stuff. Did you believe everything?
No, I knew that everything she'd mentioned being diagnosed with were all self-diagnosed. There was never any confirmation that I knew of for anything she'd mentioned having aside from cancer.
What are your thoughts on Amber stealing Casey? Oh, okay, there you go, Casey. Stealing Casey's coming out story. Did Amber tell you anything similar while with you? Cheers, Beck. In case you don't know, Casey told YouTube their coming out story. Amber had the exact same, word for word, the exact same coming out story. So bizarre. How bizarre.
I know that I asked Amber about her coming out story, but I think she kept it vague. She said that she always knew she liked women and that her dad didn't take it well. I had to go back and watch the Ankles video on Amber's coming out story to see what story she told YouTube. I don't remember her telling me anything about a note or anything else in that video. But no, I'm really never surprised to hear about Amber lying about anything.
Oh gosh,
Fair.
I'm late, and there are already so many questions, but here's
Listen, that woman lies as naturally as she does breathe.
mine. You made the cut, well done. You recently said that Amber used to be so mean to her mom, that she would make her cry. Did Amber ever make you cry in front of her? And what was Amber's response to seeing you and or her mother crying?
Amber made me cry many, many times in front of her. For someone who claims to be an empath, she really seemed to enjoy making people angry or pushing someone to their
Yeah, the empaths always seem to be the more narcissistic ones.
emotional limit based on how often she would do that to me and anyone else around her.
Like, the self-admitted empaths. People who are actual empaths and who can tell and feel how people are feeling are much more, like, chill and actually have empathy.
Amber's reaction was always to not acknowledge that the emotional response was due to her actions. We were always made to feel like we were exaggerating or that whatever was done to us wasn't a big deal.
Yep.
We just shouldn't be upset with her.
Yep.
She would say that she didn't understand why we were upset. She could never understand why her actions and the things she said could hurt or upset others. I do think she understood, but she just did not care at all. If someone upset Amber, though, it was everyone's problem, and there was no such thing as an overreaction.
Ooh, this is so felt. This is so felt. This is just, I feel this in my very bones.
How much time in a day would you get to spend by yourself? Like, how often did she expect you to hang in the same room as her? Versus how often you could have some alone time in another room? Did she control most of your schedule?
I would spend all my time in the same room with her outside of bathroom breaks and any time I would leave to get food or see my family. There were a lot of times where she would keep me from seeing them all together, but a lot of those times I would go anyway and just decided to deal with the consequences when I got home. Whether I was leaving with or without her permission, there would be a time limit, and while I was gone, I would receive text messages to guilt me saying things like, I wish I wasn't home by myself. During the bad times where I was...
Oh, that is... Yep. That was something that I dealt with my ex-roommate's girlfriend or ex-girlfriend. She always wanted friends, but she didn't want to leave the house. And I remember one time I was getting ready for a party, she was getting ready for a party, and she was getting like super anxious and that stuff, and you know, saying how she may go, she may not go, and she was still encouraging me and her ex to go, and so we went, but the entire time she was like texting her ex like, I wish I wasn't down here alone, I wish I wasn't all by myself, I wish you could like hang out with me, and we were like, well, come on up, like come hang out with us. She's like, well, I can't, I'm anxious, and it's like, okay, well, that's fine. And we did go and check on her and see if she was okay, and we hung out with her for a bit, but we still wanted to go to the party.
Medicated and depressed, she did spend a lot of time in the dining room where she would do puzzles while I slept. She did control the schedule, though I would sleep when I wanted to, except for all the times she would wake me up in the middle of the night to take care of something for her. When she wanted to fix the sleeping schedule, she would have us stay awake for 24 hours, then crash at 9 p.m. the next day. Then she would stay up late again the next night, or a few nights later anyway, making that entire day of exhaustion for nothing.
Whenever Amber would say she didn't like a meal or was done eating and showed a plate of food with some food left, would she eat it when the camera was off? She does that now.
I don't remember her ever throwing anything half-eaten away. If we were at a restaurant, she always finished her meal. If she said that she didn't like something, she'd usually eat it anyway, then order something else later.
Right, here we go. In the initial days post-breakup, did Amber try and make you get back together? Didn't think about that one. Or did she ever manipulate you to try and make you feel like you should get back together? Also, when you announced the breakup on stream, did she ever
I believe so.
guilt you about it off screen? Or put it off for long
I know Beck
periods of
already
time?
talked about this, but like...
The breakup live stream happened just a day or so after the breakup. I think she spent about 24 hours guilting me offline and trying to change my mind, then couldn't wait to go live and publicly make me feel guilty for my decision once it became clear to her that the guilt trip wasn't working. Even while Amber was dating Jade, she was still saying things to me like, "You should feel like crap for dumping me like that," or "I can't believe you dumped me like you did."
You are terrible, trying to get out of an abusive relationship.
They probably would have dumped you in a better way if you didn't hold them hostage in their car for like 2 hours, being like, "No, don't break up with me." Like, Jesus Christ. Take a breakup with some dignity.
What were you thinking, Beck? What were you thinking? Taking accountability. Was your family sad about the breakup like Amber claimed, or were they relieved? Well, I'm assuming after the intervention, they were relieved.
My family was so happy. They were only upset that it didn't happen sooner. So yeah, I think they really all felt relieved afterwards.
Hi, Beck. Amber had so many rules and boundaries for what you could and couldn't do. Did you ever put your foot down on any occasion and tell her, "No, I'm not doing that again"?
I did put my foot down sometimes when it came to seeing my family. That was the most important thing to me, and I deal with the repercussions afterward. There were many times outside of that where I said no, but saying no would always start an argument, no matter what it was that she was asking me to do.
Yeah.
The arguments would become so overwhelming and manipulative that I'd almost always end up giving in to her demands.
Beck, what did a typical
Which is so understandable with a narcissist. They twist things so much until they start to make sense. And it's really hard when that shit starts making sense and you're like, shit, maybe I am the bad guy, to actually realize, oh wait, no, never mind. Why were we here in the first place?
day with Amberlynn look like when you both moved to the apartment? What did Amberlynn Reid normally wake up? What time did Amberlynn Reid normally wake up, and what was her routine? I'm assuming it was wake up, eat a bunch of crap, and then play Choosy all day.
Amber would almost always wake up in the afternoon between noon and 3. The minute she woke up, she was on her phone and usually looking at DoorDash, checking socials, YouTube, etc. The rest of the day always depended on what she was into at the moment, usually doing separate things while in the same room. We did play Choosy at the apartment, but Choosy was played the most often whenever we lived with Eric and Ricky. I've read a lot of comments talking about how Choosy may have been a way to isolate me and keep me busy doing something meaningless with her for long periods of time. And I think they were right. It didn't leave much time for me to walk away and talk to my friends.
Yeah.
Beck, did you ever...
It wouldn't. It would keep you in her clutches.
Sleep in the guest bedroom? Why was that the only room you were allowed to decorate?
We slept in the guest bedroom every day. Amber didn't like the new mattress or bed frame that we'd bought for a decorated room. She bought it, then never spent a full night on it. As for decorating, Amber told me before we moved into the apartment that when we got our own place, she would be the one to decorate everything and that I wouldn't have a say in any of that. When I asked why not, she said, well, Destiny never cared that I decorated. I think the only reason I was allowed to decorate the guest
Yeah, but Beck is not Destiny. Also, I am so excited for their live stream.
room was because that's where all of my belongings went anyway. I know she didn't like my style, but she never asked for my opinion or found out what kind of decorations I would like anyway. I know everyone has seen what my bedroom looked like, but I do have a much different style for living rooms and public spaces in a home.
Beck, you've mentioned that each time you previously tried to leave, Amber would make promises to change and that things would get better. What exactly did she admit to needing to change? And what exactly did she promise would get better? That's such a good one. Did she make any authentic attempt to change as promised? If so, how long did this renewed honeymoon period typically last before she reverted back to coercive, controlling, demeaning, it's too early for me to read those words in a row, and or otherwise abusive words and behaviours? Did she tend to escalate these behaviours to further wear you down and thus discourage you from another attempt at leaving? Your sharing as much detail as is comfortable may help many others recognise a similar pattern in their or narc abusive relationships.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of messages saying that Beck's helping them. Yeah, what was she promising to change?
Beck's experience as somebody who has also been through narcissistic abuse in multiple relationships, like, I just want to give them a hug so much because, you know, we're both on our healing journeys, no pun intended, because I'm Journey. And Beck reminds me so much of myself in a lot of the ways of just trying to survive, because when you are in a narcissistic relationship, that's all you're trying to do, is survive. I hope Beck is genuinely, like, having a good time with making these videos. I hope these videos are a good thing for them. And I hope they genuinely enjoy this because, you know, they deserve it. And I hope they're making some good money off of these videos as well.
It'll get better. I'll change. Change what exactly?
Yeah.
The promises to change would always depend on what my reason for wanting to leave was about at the time. There were a lot of times that Amber promised me she would get therapy in order to change her behavior. She never continued going after the first few appointments, so no progress was ever really made. She promised that she would do better on her diets, that she would help to clean more, that she would be less strict. Her attempts to change were never really authentic.
No.
After each promise,
They never are. And this sounds exactly like, again, sorry for my comparisons, but like the guy I lived with. Exact same thing with the apologies being like, this needs to be changed. This, you know, I want this to change. And saying like, yeah, I'll change that, but no effort was ever put in.
Try for a few days, she'd be nicer and demand me do less for her, but then gradually go right back to her old ways. The less mobile she became, the more mean and controlling she would be. She became more confident in the way she treated me and in her belief that I would never leave. It continued to escalate until the end of the relationship. She also knew that the less independent she was, the more she needed me, the more bad I would feel for her, and the less likely I would be to leave.
Hi, Beck and Snowflake.
That devastates me.
Mr. Snowflake to you. Oh, you said Mr. Snowflake, right. Do you think Twinkie and Wasabi are being cared for properly by Amber since she has no one to help her? Well, Rarity just went missing under Amber's watch. The state of Twinkie, nails are back to being long. Amber's trying to prove she's looking after the pets. Oh, look at me brushing Wasabi. Can you look at Wasabi when you're doing it instead of eye banging the camera?
From my experience, she does not properly take care of her animals when living alone. I haven't seen Amber or Twinkie and Wasabi in years, so there's no way for me to know for sure if she truly takes them to see the vet regularly, grooms them, or cleans the litter boxes enough. After hearing about Rarity, it does worry me. I can't say for sure.
I wonder if you could give us more insight into your family's intervention when they started seeing red flags and when they started to warn you about the relationship.
My family saw red flags from the beginning. My mom, my sisters, and their then husbands all quickly had arguments with Amber. My family is not perfect, and some of them
Oh, wow.
have very, very different opinions from mine, and not all of them support me, but my sisters and my mom did, and were nice to Amber. Amber would go out of her way to stir the pot and start arguments with them. My family pointed out that Amber was controlling, that I was seeing them so much less, and voiced their concerns about my well-being while caring for her to the extent that I did. The day of the intervention, my family asked to meet me at a park, and I had no idea why. This all happened during the bad times, so I don't remember everything that was said. My mom was the one who planned it. She talked to my sisters and said that she wanted to meet up with me away from the rest of the family and talk about her concerns. My mom and sisters all met me at the park and sat down with me. Mom felt like I was being held hostage by Amber and being kept from seeing the family. She saw the state my mental health was in because she had never seen it become so bad before. Because of that, she was really concerned for my safety and just wanted me to leave her in the situation I was in.
Crazy. Can you...
I bet. Like, damn. I'm so glad Beck has caring sisters as well when it comes to that stuff. Like, I'm really glad that their family was able to show them, like, hey, we're really worried for you, and that worked. Abuse like that, when you're in it, is so hard to see.
When Hamber is fake crying, I can.
Yep.
If so, what is her biggest tell? Love to see you thriving in a relationship with a beautiful woman. Your iceberg videos have been so fun.
They are. I love Beck's not Amber related videos just as much as I love their Amber related videos. Actually, I think that I love their regular, like, non-Amber videos a lot better than their Amber videos, just because it's like them being able to, like, just be themselves and, like, enjoy their interests. See that they're sharing their interests online as well, and, like, their drawings and their art. Like, I love their art, guys. I am such a fan.
When you get all the Amber stuff out and then it's just passion project after passion project. Yeah. Anyway, can you tell when Amber is fake crying?
When Amber actually cries, there are real tears. She sobs, her shoulders shake, and her voice squeaks. I don't think I've ever seen her genuinely cry on camera. In her last response to Beck video, her eyes are dry, and she changed her voice a little to sound emotional, but you can tell it's not real. She did that a lot while filming, then would stop the video and turn around like nothing had happened. Also, thank you. I can't wait to do more videos.
Which is honestly trippy as hell. When that shit happens, when you see that stuff, it's like, what the fuck? What kind of uncanny valley shit is this?
Showing my interest in things I love.
What is Ayla really diagnosed with? Yeah. Anything? Or would she just come back and go, I got diagnosed with all this? I don't know why she's obsessed with being diagnosed with stuff.
While with me, the only thing she was ever diagnosed with besides cancer was bipolar disorder. Eric, Amber, and I all visited the same doctor who diagnosed all three of us with bipolar disorder and prescribed us all the same medication based on a questionnaire the doctor had given us. The doctor eventually took me off that medicine and said my diagnosis may have been incorrect due to my reaction to the medicine. Amber stopped taking it and seeing the doctor altogether. I continued seeing that doctor for years. I don't know about any other official diagnosis she's ever received, and there were no more given while with me.
Oh yeah, because she's nuts. Was there ever a moment to where you were in so much fear from Amberlynn that you wanted to call for help via police, family, etc.? That's a sad one.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that. What did happen?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I ever felt the need to call the police.
Oh, hell yeah, Homestuck.
I didn't feel physically threatened by Amber, but I did sometimes feel like calling for my family, either wanting to just talk to them or needing to run to them to be by their side for emotional support.
Did Ayla put times on more things than what you've already told us? How many other things did she do that with?
She would put timers on cleaning, but I kind of found that helpful sometimes. She'd sit in one spot and clean the areas that she could reach from her seat while I cleaned everywhere else. If I watched a movie in the
Of course she did, lazy bitch. I mean, she was immobile, but, like, still. Fucking help. Actually.
living room with friends or did anything outside of the room she was in, and she didn't plan on joining. She'd always ask how long the movie was or what I'd be doing and for how long. I don't know if she'd set a timer in those instances, but I would get a text right around the time I estimated asking if I was done and when I'd be coming back. She'd set a timer for lint picking, back brushing, and massages, and any activities we did together. She'd set a 10-minute timer while we watched a movie. When that timer would go off, she'd spend 15 minutes on her computer. Then she'd either go back to the movie for 10 more minutes or pick another activity and go back to the movie after. Sometimes it was reading, journaling, or choosing. If I was in the bathroom, there would be no timer, but she would text, call, or yell to tell me I'm taking too long.
Beck,
Damn.
do you know anything of the rain and
Just damn. Even when nature calls, you could not give anybody an inch, Ambi. She doesn't even give them a millimeter. This woman, like, oh, I want to hug Beck so bad, guys. Like, I just want to, like, be like, Amber, you are a piece of shit.
Oh, we just talked about that. Pain and metals. So, the Rain and Petals eavesdrop story, or the accusations of SA Amber has made towards people. Did she ever come clean, confide, or discredit her own stories? I don't know how much you've seen. You probably haven't seen all of that stuff, actually. The SA stuff, claiming that she's been SA'd by so many people. So many different...
Yeah, like, I don't trust her stories when it comes to that, but also, as a victim myself, I don't necessarily feel comfortable at this time to, like, discuss whether or not, though, because, like, it's such, people lying about SA is such a problem, and it definitely should be more punishable than it currently is, because, like, that can ruin somebody's life when it's lies. But also, as a victim myself, it's like, do I even talk about that? Do I even feel comfortable talking about it right now?
People, and the story's changed, and the reason why she's told the stories has changed.
Yeah.
I'll send you all the clips if you want more clarification, but so many examples of it just flat out lying about being SA'd.
The Rain and Petals eavesdrop is so ridiculous. The only instance
like the way how she addressed the whole situation was ridiculous. Yeah.
She told me about was with Casey. She never admitted to me that what she said was a lie, and never mentioned any of the other instances that I'd heard mentioned in your Mr. Snowflake's videos. She would bring up throughout the relationship that she didn't understand why viewers invalidated her experience, and she would tell stories about things Casey had supposedly done to her. I believe now that Casey is another victim of Amber, and I understand why there's so much doubt about everything Amber says.
What shows did Amberlynn say she was going to be on? Oh yeah, I was always talking about some shows contacted her, this show's contacted her. What shows did Amberlynn say she was going to be on?
There was a show called Too Large that contacted her and wanted her to be on the show, but they wanted her to move to Atlanta and to follow a strict diet. She told me that she rejected the show because she didn't want to move and was afraid that she wouldn't be able to post YouTube videos while on the show. I also vaguely remember her getting an email about being on my
But, like, wouldn't you be paid by the show?
600-pound life, but that could have been totally fake. We weren't sure.
Was Amber secretive with her phone during your relationship? Infamously cheated on Emily with Erica, and was still talking to Abby while with Emily.
When we first started dating, she mentioned that she received a lot of nudes from people on Snapchat. I told her that it made me kind of uncomfortable, and she told me that she changed the settings or something so that it wouldn't keep happening. But I never looked to see if that were true. Amber was really secretive with her phone. She would take mine and go through it all the time, but told me that she didn't want me looking through her phone because she had private journals and insisted she needed her privacy.
Right. So that's the audience.
Sounds like a cheater.
This is one. There's loads. There's more. I could do an endless series on this, but there's enough for another part. But I've done a few as well because there's a few I want to know, and with victims that will tie up a few things. Anyway, what's this one? Reaction channels. Which reaction channels did she hate the most? I wasn't around then, so sadly it won't be me. It's the ankle now. How often did she talk about them? Did it annoy you how obsessed she was with them? Did she ever cry over reaction channels? She's admitted to crying over Ask FM posts and Instagrams. Was she genuinely obsessed? Would she talk about them all the time? Would she cry over Geordie? hope it's a yes.
Karina Kaboom, Willow Davis, CXNT, Charlie Gold, Kicking Geese, and Apathetic Facts. She talked about the channels daily and watched every video that came out about her. She loved to say that none of them would have a channel or be making any money without her.
She still loves saying that.
Tell me about her flagging videos of theirs. It was annoying to me that she was so obsessed because it was such an unhealthy obsession. She would sometimes cry about the things the channels would say, calling them bullies, and saying it was due to fat shaming.
This one comments, how long would you be checking comments?
Amber, you being fat is another story. I mean, the issues I have with you being fat is not with you necessarily being fat. It's the fact you keep saying you want to lose weight and you do the exact opposite in terms of like behavioral shit. And you don't want to get better. You don't want to deal with your food addiction. You don't want to deal with any of that shit. So, you know, that's my issue with it, is that Amber's a hypocrite.
On her videos, and did that ever annoy you? How often she would talk about them? Look what this person said, look what it... How long would she be checking? Would she just check? Because every now and again she'll go, I'm not reading comments. But she is.
Oh yeah.
She would spend an hour at a time scrolling through her YouTube comments on and off daily. She would also cry about her YouTube comments and talk about how detrimental it was to her mental health, but would go out of her way to read them along with posts on Reddit, Kiwi Farms, and Facebook.
Hygiene. All right. Hygiene. Well, yeah, I think you've been respectful about Amber's lack of hygiene. However, I mean, I wouldn't be. Especially not after her accountability video. I'm sorry you thought you were abused.
That really is all it was. You're right.
Hey, man. However, I think it's a valid thing to discuss because it must have affected you. It must have had a negative effect on you. Being around somebody who refuses to clean properly.
Yeah.
That would have done my mentals in. That wouldn't have been good for me. Was it something you tried to talk to Amber about? And would she get defensive if you did bring it up, or did you not bring it up but wanted to? Did she get defensive if you or anybody brought it up? I mean, you don't. If you,
I feel like
you don't
she
have
would.
To say how much...
I feel like she would. If you guys like know a lot more about like other, you know, if you know r/fat people stories, r/leg beards, r/nice girls, like Amber gives that off just in her vibe. And she is so defensive to everything else. I wouldn't expect her not to be defensive about this.
She stunk. Or stank. But would she ever get defensive if you brought it up? The lack of hygiene. And it is part of the abuse.
Yeah.
That is awful to have to put up with that.
Like, that is abuse both to yourself and the people around you. And yeah, when it affects other people, because keep in mind, there are a lot of people who have breathing issues. Like, people have a right to bring that shit up. Whether it be nice smells like perfume or shit like this. You have a right to bring it up, especially if it affects your health, in my opinion.
So I know Amber, even though you didn't even mention the hygiene stuff before, Amber wasn't happy that you were talking about the hygiene stuff, even though you didn't.
I would talk to Amber about her hygiene. I tried to convince her to cut her hair to make maintenance easier on both of us, and she refused. I told her to stop wearing the chokers when the dark spots appeared behind her neck, and she told me it wasn't a big deal and that it was fine. I'm not going to go into detail about the smell, but...
Yeah, like, it's fine if you're the one doing it, Amber, but you weren't. Like...
But it was brought up to me a lot by everyone around me, and I did have to talk to her about it. Her reaction was usually to blame her depression and how she struggled to clean by herself. Eventually, I stopped asking her to help herself because it wasn't going to happen. It did get a little better when we moved into the apartment with the large walk-in shower, but I did still stand in the bathroom and help until the day we broke up.
I see a lot of abuse when it comes to you and Amber. People often mention financial abuse, which is not something I immediately think of when I think of abuse, but it's still a form of abuse. I always think of physical or emotional, but then I see people talking about financial. I'm like, oh yeah, of course, that's one as well. That's a big one as well. Can you think of any big examples of Amber abusing you financially?
Amber constantly held over my head that she was the only one with an income. During almost every argument, she would tell me how she pays all the bills and buys all the food, as if that gave her a right to control me, and as if I contributed nothing to her life. I would tell her each time that if she felt that way, I'd gladly go back to working. She'd quickly say, no, 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 I don't want you to do that. And she didn't. She couldn't handle being apart from me for any extended period of time. She needed a caretaker, and that was already my full-time job, and a thankless one.
Yeah.
Despite that, and doing what I could to contribute by also being in the vlogs, when she knew full well that I didn't want to be, in order to earn the home I was living in her mind, she would also be sure to take away any money I'd get from other sources. I mentioned this before, but even being seen collecting change would trigger her to question whether I was saving up to leave her.
Yeah.
When my mother passed away, me and my siblings received a portion of a settlement from my dad's job that ended up being around $5,000 to $6,000 for each of us. I was not allowed to keep it. She told me that the money had to go into paying the bills and my half of the rent. My mom had plans for when she would have received that money before she passed away.
Amber, you stole their inheritance.
Getting it was bittersweet, and I would have liked to use it in some way to honor her. She wouldn't have
Yeah.
wanted Amber to have it, and it
No.
really hurt, but she took it anyway.
What the fuck? What the fuck? Like, oh. Holy shit. Oh my. I truly hope that Beck is making like a good chunk of change from their channel, because holy shit. And Amber, I hope your views continue to go down, because my God, what the fuck? That horrifies me.
I told her that I would like to do something with the money. She dismissed it and treated me like I owed it to her, and it wasn't my choice. She said that I couldn't have it because the bills needed to be paid, even though I knew that she was making enough from YouTube to cover bills and rent with no
Exactly.
problem.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this, Beck. Not a super long one. Actually, I don't think it was. Oh no, it wasn't. Like I said, there's another part there if you want to do it, but there's no rush because this must be a bit draining. But I'm hoping it's good for you. Like I've said before, it was good for Casey. I was really sad about the Casey interview, but he said no, it was good. It's good to get this out. I suppose you do after a while, don't you?
Yeah.
You suffer all this abuse, and then after however long, you think, right, I'm ready to share my story. And like I say, I've had plenty of messages from people saying because Beck is doing this, I feel a bit more confident to speak up. I think we had one there, didn't we?
That's really
I feel a
good.
bit more confident to speak up about my situation. Right, anyway, thanks for doing this, Beck. I hope you're doing all right. Right, cheers, everybody.
Those were all really good questions, and I hope I was able to give you guys some interesting answers. I want to thank everyone once again for watching this video, and to Mr. Snowflake for putting it all together, and of course everyone who asked me questions. This is the second Q&A we've done, and I'll link the first one in the description below. Maybe if you guys like this one too, we could do more of these in the future. I'm so grateful for being able to tell my story and for everyone willing to give it a listen. I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye.
Bye, Beck. Fan art, fan art, fan art. Oh, hell yeah. Ghost hunting Beck. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. I love it. Inuyasha, I think. That was amazing, guys. I think I might create some of my own Beck fan art maybe and send it to them because, like, I love their Sprite. It's so cute. And like, oh, the fan art is so good. I'm so glad that they have such like an amazing audience as well. Like that just, it warms my heart. I am so happy when other people are being treated good by their audience and they're treating their audience good too. And like it's a good symbiotic relationship. And I feel like that is what relationships, like parasocial relationships online should be, because a creator is nothing without their audience. And it just makes me really happy that Beck is like featuring the fan art and people are making fan art and like people are just, we're having a good time and it's all good in general. I am very angry at Amber, especially after that last question. That fucking blew my ass out of the water. With that one, I am astounded that Amber would do, I mean, no, I'm not astounded that Amber would do that. That sounds like her character. But like the fucking gall. My golly gosh. But that was us reacting to Beck's newest video. Holy crap, I just want to give Beck a hug at the end of all this. I think all the questions were really amazing also, and I was really happy just seeing their sprite and like their art and just like the fan art that people make. Like it just makes me really happy and that just puts a smile on my face. It's good to see. Beck has every right to be putting this stuff out on the internet because Beck has been through hell. And I hope Beck knows and sees how much support they have, because holy crap, like that is just wow. Just wow. Anyway guys, if you like this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you, Beck, for answering all those questions, and thank you to Mr. Snowflake for actually like putting all those questions together. I really enjoy these, and it gives us a good bit of insight, and just, again, I want to hug them. Beck and Destiny are really, really putting together an Avengers level team to take down the Hamburglar, and I am here for it. Other than that, guys, that's it for today, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye!